Welcome to the new top tier meta. It's really just the same as the old top tier meta because we have the Grippy, the Gripen D's Nuts, the Grippy, the Jazz 39, the new Metamobile, and it's very similar to the way the F-16C played in the previous patch. Basically, you fly around with TWS, shoot 9Ms at things, and they don't see it coming, and then they die. On the other hand, this thing really takes everything that was obnoxious and impossible to deal with in the F-16C and turns it up to like a factor of like plus 20%. This thing is smaller, it's harder to detect, it's harder to defeat in a dogfight because the sustained turn rate's something like 24 degrees per second. The initial turn rate's like 30 degrees per second, and it maintains that high turn rate for a very long time. So if you're an Su-27, if you don't kill them in the first shot, you're not going to win. If you're an F-15, it's over basically in the first turn of the merge as well. So all of these new planes of everything that exists right now in the current flight model states, the Gripen is the best. The Gripen is more or less an F-16C kit with the F-16A flight model. So you have the best flight model in the game, you have the best kit in the game, at least as far as Sim's concerned. You have the best cockpit ergonomics in the game. You have TWS, you have a very strong radar. You're not nearly susceptible to any of the new kind of like radar. I don't know if they're bugs or if they're just a redesign where even on stuff like the Su-27, things are disappearing. It's really kind of glitchy. The F-15 in Sim is kind of dead on arrival just because it doesn't have TWS, and that's a plane that needs to have situational awareness in a meta like this. Like the F-15, because of the way that people fly on the deck, like the BVR missiles, just like they're not really relevant in a BVR role. They're only really relevant in a like close range role as soon as someone gets off the deck. But the 15 and the 27, they run really hot. This thing, on the other hand, this thing runs really cold. It's like kind of like fighting an F5E that is more or less has the performance of like an F-16A model. So it's really obnoxious to deal with. Even like the only success that I've had with like F-15, here's a perfect example. You go head on with an F-15 and you're in a Jazz 39. There is a high likelihood that he's not even able to lock a missile on to you because your plane is that cold. And if you're pre-flaring, he's not going to get a lock on anything that isn't flare. So even before the merge happens, you pre-flare and you're just kind of winning. And the same thing is like in the F-15, I've had a little bit of success against this thing, but that's really just exploiting the pilot mistakes and kind of like being able to utilize the 9M and just utilizing like, if you can come in with an F-15, you get like a good initial turn and the other guy doesn't realize that you did a good initial turn, and then he like turns 90 degrees to you and then flies straight. You can get a 9M shot off that he's probably not going to avoid. But aside from that, anything that lasts more than 2 turns, this thing just kills. And this creates a really frustrating dynamic if you're on the other side. Like, in all honesty, playing this thing, I get into a game and maybe the game might last 20 to 30 minutes before the enemy team gets frustrated and just empties out because there's no reliable counter to this. And with the way that things were in the previous patch, there wasn't a good counter, but it's arguably worse now just because of the way that radars work. Like I was playing Su-27 earlier, and I thought maybe going to 10 kilometers and launching the Mach 2 R-27ER from across the map would work. And I mapped the slew, the radar button down so I can look down, I can do all the cool radar things. This plane doesn't show up on radar. Like, it just doesn't show up from those heights. So, like, basically what happened to me in Albatross, even though we're searching for one dude in a Gripen and we know that he's, like, coming in from the airfield, he doesn't show up. He just spikes and just shoots with two 9Ms, and we're just dead. Like, that's kind of how it feels to play against this thing. It's where, like, you really don't have a chance. And that's kind of what happens in this game. And top tier right now is just kind of like beating your head against the wall and beating your head against attrition, because IRCCM and its consequences have been disastrous for top tier, as far as I'm concerned, because you get the bad missile aspect, you don't see it coming, you're just going to get killed. And that's it's a dynamic that I guess is realistic, but it's also like a dynamic that's just not fun to play in. And there's people can argue like, oh, I'm never vulnerable to 9Ms. I have yet to see any player play against like a consistently large team that is equipped with 9Ms and do well. Once the game gets to, let's say, above like a 6v6, and you can't get like your isolated 1v1s, you can't maintain situational awareness, game's over. It turns into attrition. So all these people are like, oh yes, we want RBEC for top tier. That's going to be exactly the same. It's going to be a war of attrition. One side's going to get an advantage and it's going to farm the other team. The other team's going to go, hey, I don't want to pay this repair cost, and then they're going to leave. And more or less, that's exactly what is going to happen in this game. And I'm cutting some of the stuff out. I'm cutting out the parts where like, okay, cool, we died, and then we're gonna fly the 5-6 minutes to the battle zone and go shoot more missiles at guys until we die. And as long as we make more kills than deaths, the enemy team has more repair costs, we have less, and they will eventually get frustrated and leave. And we are fighting against, so me, Femboy, Fabulous Femboy. I wanted to say Femboy Fertilizer, but no, that's my alt account. And Darbre are fighting against, I think it's Knack, Noob, and some other, like, we're fighting against like 3 Wovi dudes. Me and Darbre are in the Grippy. Femboy is flying around the F-16A. And we're doing teamwork. We're not doing like very close teamwork. We're not going like, okay, we're gonna do like a wagon wheel of death. But we're just kind of like flying around, looking for things and shooting at them. And probably by like 20 minutes into this game, the 3 stack of the Wovi guys have left, and it just kills the lobby. Like, and that's really all there really is to top tier. And it's not really a thing of like, oh, we're better than you and whatnot. Like, nah, the planes are better, the missiles are better suited to the meta that is top tier right now, and that's not really going to change. Like, there's no way to change the 9M aside from just making it a 9L that's either smokeless or a 9L that just has IRCCM that would make this fun. Like, there's too much going on. There's no warning system. There's no ability to really, like, there's no variety. And this, to me, like, this is why, like, top tier doesn't have nearly as much appeal to me as, like, other people do. Like, I know this is the thing that's popular. I know this is the thing that people want to see. This is also, like, the thing that I, like, when I do it, it kind of kills a portion of my soul, because, like, cool, I launched a 9M at a guy that's side aspect to me. I knew that I got that kill as soon as I pushed the button. There was nothing to it. And the dogfights at top tier, when you have planes that are pretty evenly matched is reasonable. Planes that, like, where you can win an initial turn versus turn rate, and how you play it correctly could be interesting. At the same time, something like the Gripen kind of just takes all of that and throws it out the window. It just does everything better. And the line that you take with the Gripen is just take the line that's in the top of your cockpit and angle at the guy's tail, and you'll probably just win, in all honesty. It is identical to the way the F-16A plays, but you just have better missiles and you have TWS now. And you have a better cockpit, and maybe you have better acceleration and better whatever. I'm not going to measure it because it feels gross. It feels unfair, and I don't like it. I don't like playing planes like this, but at the same time, trying to devise a strategy again, like with the SMT, to do kind of the same thing. It's identical. It is going to be the same strategy guide for the Su-27 as the SMT, which is stay low, stay out of the fight, don't commit too hard, and as soon as you do commit, expect to be third party. Like this guy here, the Su-27, he kind of maybe had a good chance for a possible follow-up R-73 shot, but guess what? Darbre's right there, and he just comes in and sprays him, and that's not even me calling for cover or anything. He just happens to be there. Like, as I said earlier, like, we're not doing like super close in teamwork. Like, we're just kind of going around, fucking around, like doing like stupid LARPing things and talking about like, my approach angle. But that's how brainless this actually ends up being. It's rather unfortunate. Now, should the Gripen flight model be changed? I think the simple answer is yes. I think that it should. The way that it retains energy, especially between its initial turn rate and its sustained turn rate, seems very, very unrealistic. It is a delta wing. Yes, it has low wing loading. Yes, it's efficient, but right now in its current state, it beats an F-16A in pretty much any kind of fight, as far as I understand. And I think that the F-16A is kind of internationally considered like the gold standard as far as like a plane that maintains a ridiculously high turn rate. And it's also my understanding that most Delta wings, even the ones with the canards, they're not AOA mobiles all of the time, but that is kind of like one of the things that they do really well. And this is a plane that, when it does the AOA thing, should probably lose more speed than it does. That is not to say that we should take third-hand sources and kind of like interpolate it into being bad at the game. Like, I think if you gave this thing a flight model that's similar to the Mirage 2000, it would still be very good. I would still definitely fly it. Like, I think the Mirage 2000 flight model, as far as top tier goes, up until basically this patch, was arguably the second best, maybe the third best. It was plenty usable. So if they change the flight model to reflect just doing Delta Wing things, like, I would not stop flying this. But in its current state, because of just the kind of insane turn rate and the energy retention, like, this is brainless. This is just a better F-16C. This is just an F-16A with AIM-9Ms. And it means that, yes, flying this thing means that Sweden has like a good fighter. Like, finally, after like 2 years or 3 years of being like dog shit, it means that Britain has a fighter that's good. It also means that it's good in a way that is incredibly uninteresting, and it's good in a way that just generates another F-16 conundrum where kind of everything else in sim like just doesn't really have any kind of field to play on. So overall, it's a neat plane, but the new update is just it. We've already played this. It's the same. GG, we go next.